Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So, injury reports for 49ers Ravens as of now. Some notable injuries, some notable question marks for the 49ers going into this game. Obviously, they're preparing for, one of their biggest games of the season. Monday night, Christmas night. In Levi's Stadium in San Francisco. So the 49ers, of course, have been waiting for the returns of defensive tackles Arik Armstead and Javon Hargrave. Obviously, those guys, were out last week. Hargrave played the week before, but Armstead has been out, the past 3 weeks. Ever since the Seattle game, I believe, which was week 14, maybe? It was week 14. So he's been out, obviously, the past 2 games. Hargrave was obviously the more notable injury last week when he was ruled out before the game. Didn't really matter, though. Obviously, the 49ers, put a spanking on the Arizona Cardinals to win the NFC West. But obviously, the expectation for Arik Armstead was that he, obviously would be healthy and ready to play Christmas Day against the Baltimore Ravens with being out the previous 2 weeks. Obviously, everybody knows Arik Armstead has been grappling with foot and knee issues. Javon Hargrave's dealing with a hamstring injury. So as far up until this point, the practice participation report looks pretty similar to what Kyle Shanahan projected during his press conference earlier in the week. Linebacker Oren Burks, tight end Ross Dwelley, running back Elijah Mitchell did not participate in practice. Furthermore, wide receiver Jauan Jennings remains in the concussion protocol, which is something else to note, of course. So as far as guys being out, and not practicing. Along with Oren Burks, Dwelley, and Jauan Jennings, Arik Armstead did not participate in Thursday's practice. Nick Bosa did not participate in Thursday's practice. He is on rest, though. There's no injury designation for Nick Bosa. It's just rest. Javon Hargrave did not practice again yesterday, obviously with the hamstring injury. And then Trent Williams was also non-injury related. He was on rest as well with Nick Bosa. As far as limited participations in practice, Clelin Ferrell has an ankle issue he's dealing with, and he was limited. I still expect Clelin Ferrell to play on Monday. And then as far as full participations go in practice, Deommodore Lenoir, who suffered a rib injury after the Arizona game, he was a full participation in practice, so he will be good to go, of course, Monday night versus the Baltimore Ravens. And then Spencer Burford, who missed last week with a knee injury, he was also a full participant in practice, so I would obviously expect Spencer Burford back Monday night versus the Baltimore Ravens. So as far as the Ravens injury report up until this point, as far as guys who did not participate in practice, Jalen Armour-Davis has a concussion. He didn't participate. Odell Beckham Jr. is sick with some type of illness. He was not a participant either. Limited participants in practice, Zay Flowers, Arthur Mallett, Ronnie Stanley, which that's a big one to note. Ronnie Stanley. He actually has a concussion, or he is in the concussion protocol. So that'll be interesting to see if he's able to go Monday night or not. I would imagine Ronnie Stanley, with him being a limited participant in yesterday's practice, I would imagine Ronnie Stanley probably plays Monday night. And again, Baltimore's pretty injury they have a lot of injuries, and I don't really see Ronnie Stanley missing out on a game of this type of magnitude. So I would expect Ronnie Stanley to play even though he was a limited participant. As far as Arthur Mallett and Zay Flowers, I'm not sure. But along with those guys, Marcus Williams was the other limited participant in practice on Thursday. He's got a groin injury he's dealing with. Again, I don't know the severity of that. Baltimore Ravens fans would probably know a little bit more. But again, if he's limited on Thursday, if Zay Flowers, Arthur Mallett, Ronnie Stanley, and Marcus Williams are all limited participants as far as yesterday went, I would imagine maybe some of them ramp up to full participants today, or maybe they stick as limited participants just to kind of give them extra rest leading up to the game, and then they could obviously then go into that game as questionable. And then as far as full participants in practice, linebacker Malik Ham has an ankle injury, and he was a full participant, so obviously he should be ready to go for Monday night. So a decent amount of injuries on both teams. As far as the 49ers, though, I mean, they clearly have the more notable injuries. Obviously, Baltimore is without Keaton Mitchell now. They're without Mark Andrews. They've dealt with a decent amount of injuries throughout the season as well, but I think the biggest thing to note here is Arik Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Jauan Jennings, and Elijah Mitchell not participating in practice. Again, Arik Armstead's injury is weird because he got lucky because he doesn't have a severe injury, and he kind of, in a way, lucked out on not having a serious injury with his foot and knee, which obviously that's good news. But, Kyle Shanahan came on, I believe week 14 it was, going into playing Seattle, and he mentioned how Arik Armstead would probably be out the next 2 games, and then hopefully he's back on Christmas Day versus the Baltimore Ravens. So with him being obviously with him not participating in practice up until this point, it is worth noting that, his status could be in doubt going into Monday night. The good news is the 49ers are playing on Monday night. It's not a Sunday game. Therefore, that's an extra day of rest that, Arik Armstead and Javon Hargrave and Jauan Jennings and even Elijah Mitchell could have going into the game. So, and then with Javon Hargrave, like with his hamstring injury, I believe it's some type of hamstring strain. I don't think it's serious. It doesn't seem serious. Kyle Shanahan's not talking about the injury like it is something serious. Again, can't really, get a feel for how likely he is to play. Kind of the same thing with Elijah Mitchell. Really with Elijah Mitchell, though, he's kind of taken a step back in terms of being the 49ers' second-string running back. Obviously, he was the starter before Christian McCaffrey was traded to the Niners, but with the emergence of Jordan Mason, it's really hard to play Elijah Mitchell over Jordan Mason, knowing how well Jordan Mason has been running the ball. So that's not really necessarily a notable injury. More so, Javon Hargrave, Arik Armstead, and Jauan Jennings are like the main two. And then, of course, with Deommodore Lenoir, Spencer Burford, and Cleveland Farrell, those guys are all trending towards playing. So, again, it's with Arik Armstead, obviously the hope is that he does play. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if he's out. It would definitely suck because when you have a game of this type of magnitude, you want everybody as healthy as they can possibly be. And obviously, with Arik Armstead having a foot injury on top of a knee injury, that obviously doesn't help. But again, I mean, I think it's one of them things where the 49ers are just going to have to take it one day at a time with him. You obviously don't want to rush a guy like Arik Armstead back too soon and increase, his chances of re-aggravating that foot or knee or, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, Arik Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Jauan Jennings, those are all very important guys to this roster. And if it means, keeping them guys out for at least one more game while they, recover back to full health and then obviously get ready for the playoffs, I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, I think, it's better if the 49ers just go out on Monday night and win this game opposed to losing this game. Obviously, if San Francisco loses this game, they're still going to have the number 1 seed in the NFC, considering Dallas, got beat by Buffalo last week, and then the Eagles losing to the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night. That definitely helps the 49ers case. So really they can afford one more loss, but to make it easier for everybody, you got to just win out. And again, the Baltimore Ravens very good team. Lamar Jackson's playing at, a very, very elite level as of right now. He's doing this without his top weapon in Mark Andrews. He's doing this with, a banged-up offensive line. Like, Lamar Jackson's putting that Baltimore Ravens team on his back. Just because Baltimore has a decent amount of injuries, that doesn't mean anything with this team. They're very well coached by John Harbaugh, of course, and that coaching staff over there. They're a disciplined football team as well. I think that's one thing that kind of summarizes. John Harbaugh's kind of coaching tenure in Baltimore. It's just he's always had very disciplined football teams. So, again, I mean, I think you don't want to rush Arik Armstead and Jauan Jennings and Hargrave back too soon. Even Oren Burks, but at the same time, it's one of them things that the 49ers are going to have to kind of be cautious with. But again, we'll see what happens, of course. I'll continue to keep you guys updated on the injuries, but that's what we do know now. Obviously, we have one more practice today before the Monday night game. But, yeah, so just to quick summarize, the most notable injuries for the 49ers as far as who didn't participate in practice on Thursday: Arik Armstead, Oren Burks, Ross Dwelley, Javon Hargrave, Jauan Jennings, and then, of course, Trent Williams and Nick Bosa were on rest days. And then Clelin Ferrell, limited participant. Spencer Burford, Deommodore Lenoir were both full participants. So, again, I'll continue to keep you guys updated on these injuries. Again, I would imagine Clelin Ferrell, Spencer Burford, Lenoir are obviously able to go, and I'm sure they're probably going to play Monday night. As far as Arik Armstead, though, and Oren Burks and Hargrave and Jennings, those guys could very well be questionable going into the game. Some may even be game-time decisions, but of course we'll see what happens. So, as always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one.